my bookish lovelies, Kira here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Book Habits book tag. I was not tagged in this. I saw this on Rajathon's channel and I'm going to leave his page link below, but I got really excited because I thought this was just a really fun tag, so I just went ahead and decided to do it. It's called the Book Habits book tag. It's kind of discussing like all the habits and stuff like that you do like while you read. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first question is, do you have a certain place at home that you like to read? For me, my favorite place is propped up in my bed or like lounging back or like laying down. My favorite place to read in the house is my bed. It's the most comfortable place. I can, readjust. I can lean into the wall. Also have my fan like this directed right towards my bed, so if I get too hot while I'm reading, like it's just an area like where I have everything that I need and I have full comfort. Question number 2, do you use a bookmark or a random piece of paper? I use a bookmark. I have 2 mugs on my bookshelf that have tons of bookmarks in them. I am not a fan of dog earring, like I don't like doing any of that. I do not use random pieces of paper. I'm usually always like within reach of a bookmark, so that's usually what stays in my book, and I'm usually pretty good like about not knocking out the bookmarks, so that's pretty much what I use. Question number 3, can you just stop reading or do you have to stop after a chapter or page number? So I can just stop reading if I really want to, but I prefer to stop reading like right after I finish a chapter. Usually like if I'm kind of tired or like I'm in the middle of something and I want to hurry up and finish reading like where I'm at, I usually don't just like to stop. I like to stop at the end of a chapter. I feel like chapters are completed concepts and ideas or completed segments of a particular story that I'm reading. So for me, it's a lot easier for me to stop at the end of a chapter because I don't like getting interrupted during like that segment, because sometimes like that causes me to have to go back through and reread that. If I finish a chapter, I kind of feel like I can kind of put it like in this like a neater package of what I've just read, and then like it allows me to continue to move on and make more progress with my reading. So I do prefer to end at the end of a chapter. Question number 4, do you eat or drink while reading? Very, very rarely. Occasionally, like very rarely, like I will eat some chips with it, which does not really work out in reading, considering the fact like that when you eat chips, like they're kind of a messy thing and they're a little bit greasy, and so I don't really snack very much, and when I do snack it's usually potato chips, so I don't really like to eat potato chips around my books, so I try not to. Question number 5, multitasking. Do you listen to music or watch TV while reading? I really don't. I actually prefer overall silence or like the sound of my fan or my air purifier going. I like a little bit of background noise, but overall I don't even like the TV on. Like I actually don't like to hear anything. I like to completely immerse myself, and I find like that I can do that better if there's no background noise. Question number 6, do you read one book at a time or several at once? I think this really depends on what I'm reading. Sometimes like there's slower burn books that I have a lot of problems with getting through. So what I'll do is alternate like between like that, like maybe a contemporary, or it depends like whether or not it's a contemporary or fantasy, what I alternate it with. If I'm struggling with a contemporary, I'll alternate it with a fantasy. If I'm struggling with a fantasy, I'll alternate it with a contemporary, and then I'll read 2 books at one time. Most commonly though, I do prefer to read one book at a time because it allows me like to go through and organize my thoughts. I usually take notes while I read. I want to make sure like that I use up all of my notebook space like that I have allotted for like this particular book, and if I go back through and back and forth, then it doesn't really allow me to do that very easily. So I do prefer to read one book at a time, but I will on occasion read more than one book at a time. Usually it's like, it also depends on setting too. If I know that I'm driving a lot, like I usually I have one audiobook that I listen to on my commute to and from work, which is totally different from what I typically read or have physical copies of. So I will be reading one book just like alone, like on my daily commute back to and from, and then I will have a different book. So I mean, I guess in that regard, I'm also kind of a multitasker as well. Question number 7. Do you read just at home or everywhere? I tend to read when I'm on my lunch break. So I guess we could say like everywhere. I mean like I have places like that I typically read, which is the house, in my room, and then also I read in my car during lunch. So those are probably the 2 primary places that I read. I wouldn't necessarily say that I read everywhere because I don't go to I probably should get out more and read at parks. If I do happen to be at a park, I do bring a book. So I guess you could say yes, I probably do read everywhere, but like not as much as I'd like to. Question number 8. Do you read aloud or in your head? I typically read in my head unless I'm reading a segment of some book that I am obsessed with or a quote that I love to somebody else, because I do have occasion to do that as well. So it just depends, but more often than not, I do read in my head. All right, question number 9. Do you read ahead or skip pages? I don't like reading ahead. I do not skip pages. Sometimes I'll skim a book if I'm not really feeling it, but I don't really skip and I don't really read ahead. So that's not really what I do. I like to try to be surprised, and I feel like if I were to read ahead, I wouldn't have that same element of surprise that I get when I kind of just go with the flow and read it in order. Question number 10. Do you rig the spine or keep your books like new? Well, I don't know that I would necessarily say that I keep my books like new. I definitely don't like a broken spine. That's just how I am. When you look at a book on a bookshelf, that's like one of the first things like that you see is the spine. And I know like that's satisfying to a lot of people, and that's perfectly fine. I probably won't lend you my book because I'm worried that, you know, like I'm just worried. Yeah, I'm just worried. I do typically prefer to keep my books like new. Now, when I say like it depends like on new, sometimes I will write in them and I will highlight them and I will tab them up. I will annotate like nobody's business. And I guess like in that respects, like I don't necessarily keep them like new. I just like having the physical outside of the book like look like new. If the inside of the book like gets a little, like some writing on it, some highlights, that's perfectly fine to me. I just like the exterior of the book to look nice, and that's just kind of what I do. Oh, well, I already answered question number 11. Do you ever write in your books? Yes, I like to write in my books. Sometimes like, I don't know like that I'm a very verbal writer though, like when I annotate, like sometimes like I will do emojis like on the side, like I'll have like a little, I'll do like a smiley face, or I'll put like little hearts like next to it, like if I really, really loved it, or like I'll do like a sad face, like if this is like a really sad thing. And then occasionally like I will write like, when I was reading Mistborn, I wrote like, you know, Kelsier, like next to a bracketed paragraph, which I did it because he had his physical description in that paragraph. So occasionally I will write physical words, but more often than not, like I usually use emojis to kind of, you know, describe how I feel, because to me, like if I go back, like then I can know like the emotion like right off the bat that I was feeling, and maybe not necessarily be able to verbalize that emotion, because when I'm reading, sometimes I get really caught up in it and I have to have time to process. And if you're annotating and, you know, doing like and trying to respond to things simultaneously, sometimes all you have is an emotion and you can't really clarify or define that until much later, and by that time I've already kind of annotated the book. So I like to define my annotations in emotions rather than words. Also, so that was the last question. Also, if you watch this video and you like this, I am, according to this, supposed to tag everyone who watches it. So if you guys have watched this video, you guys are tagged in this video. So please feel free to comment, like, subscribe. Really appreciate it. If you guys want to help out my channel, hitting that little bell icon after you guys subscribe so that you guys get notifications every time I post really helps me. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, and Goodreads. Those links are linked in the description below. And thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys like this book tag. I had a really fun time filming this. I will see you guys again very soon.